Good morning, I'm Alister, Benn and you're watching Expressive Photography. Well, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I've been up for 2 hours. I'm out here on the very furthest west point of Scotland at Ardnamurchan. It's raining, it's very windy, and good job I packed my secret weapon. Well, good morning again. So here we are on the very furthest west spot on the Scottish mainland. I think it's actually the furthest west spot in the whole of the British Isles. Over my shoulder you might just be able to make out the Inner Hebrides there, the island of Coll. If you go straight out across the Atlantic Ocean there, the next thing you're going to hit is Newfoundland. A little bit to the north you're going to hit the south coast of Greenland. So we really are out in the middle of nowhere here on the west of Scotland. As you can see, the day hasn't brightened up too much. It's typically quite grey, bit overcast. And like I was saying to you in the car there, I've got my new GFX 100S, I've got my Case Revolution filters, I've got some nice lenses, I've got my Gitzo tripod with an Arca Swiss Cube head on it. So I've got all this fancy equipment. And the one thing that I packed in my bag this morning that's going to be of more use to me than anything else is my attitude. Now, I've never professed to be one of the greatest photographers in the world. I enjoy my photography very much, but one thing I do have in abundance is I've got a really good attitude. I am so happy to be out here. It's a beautiful atmospheric day. I've got the wind blowing, there's a couple of seals floating about offshore, there's some oyster catchers over there, there's some common loons, or Great Northern divers as we call them, loafing offshore. And even though the light is quite flat and quite overcast, there's colour everywhere. I talk an awful lot about the attributes of the landscape: luminosity, contrast, colour, geometry, atmosphere, and we have all of those in abundance this morning. The colour might not be dramatic morning sunrises and beautiful clouds drifting across the ocean, but there is colour in this landscape and we're going to go out and find it. So join me this morning as I explore somewhere I haven't actually stood before. This is my first time here, and we're going to spend a few hours exploring this area and seeing what it is that catches my eye and see if we can make some photographs. And if we don't, then that's okay too. And that's all about attitude. I certainly found the beautiful shells and the colour that was on that beach to be really inspiring, but on days when it's very grey and flat outside, I'm always drawn to the luminosity of the way the water interacts with the ocean there. The light was a little bit flat to include the lighthouse as a subject in its own right, but I really did like this sort of panoramic aspect ratio to isolate some of the rocks, and with a longer exposure, I felt it was a very soft and soothing scene. This is quite an interesting scene behind me here, and one of the things I really love about coming somewhere new is you just never know what you're going to find. So even on a day like this, scouting somewhere can be a really cool thing to do. But I really like this scene actually, the way, it's actually the equinox today and it's the highest tide of the year, and even though it's now on the way out, it's still really far in. And the water's just ploughing in through this little channel here, and there's a little promontory of rock that you can just see down here, and the water's coming in, and then as it washes out it's pouring over the top and creating this really nice little kind of waterfall cascade with the receding headland as well. I think the 4x5 is probably the most successful of these. I've tried various aspect ratios, and I do think the 4x5 vertical, or maybe even a square, is going to be the most effective here. So let's have a look at those. So one thing I talked about on Wednesday's video just past there with the Case Revolution polarizer is the importance of polarizing in the field, but at the same time it's important sometimes not to polarize in the field. You can see behind me here, these rocks have got this incredible shine on them, and it gives them an amazing amount of texture, three-dimensionality and contrast, and allows them to kind of shine on this quite dark day. So what you'll find when we look at some of the photos that I've been taking is that I've been rolling the polarizer off to allow some of that shine to show through. Otherwise the rocks just get very very fat. The rocks just get very flat and black with no contrast at all. And I think for my imagination and my mind here right now, the surface of these rocks is actually quite a good part of this landscape. Well, I can honestly say I've had a complete blast this morning exploring this incredible coast. The rain's just starting again, but it's been dry for the last few hours. The rocks were really treacherous, and it was really quite daunting out there. So I'm going to start heading on to a slightly safer area. It just goes to show that doesn't matter what you've got in your camera bag. You can have the best gear in the world, but if you've got a bad attitude, or you have all of these expectations of what you're going to make, then you can come up short every single time. Have I made the best photographs this morning in the world? No, I certainly have not. Have they, or would they win international competitions or be incredibly popular on social media? Probably not. But the beauty of it is that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to be popular. I'm not here to be world famous. I'm here because I want to be here. And having a camera in my hand is a way to engage with this landscape on a meaningful level, to see what's there, to explore what's there, not what I wish was there. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever been to this section of coast, and I love it. It's just absolutely fantastic. Seen some wonderful wildlife, some gannets offshore, all sorts of really interesting things. So I've had a wonderful experience, and on my scale of things that are important, that's right at the top. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video that I've made this morning. It's been lovely to share this beautiful stretch of the Scottish coastline with you. I hope the audio is bearable for you as well. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe. It really helps us out, and give us a thumbs up, and dive into the comments. What are your expectations when you're out in the landscape? Finally, before I close, if you do want to explore the landscape in a different way from perhaps the more traditional looking for leading lines and using the rule of thirds, then perhaps dive into my learning material, Luminosity and Contrast, The Colour of Meaning and Creativity Superpowers. Those 3 ebooks I can pretty much guarantee are going to change your relationship with the landscape, change the way you see, and that with a good attitude, managing your expectations and being here for the right reasons is going to make you a far better and happier photographer than anything else will. Thank you very much. I'm Alister Benn. This is Expressive Photography, and I wish you well wherever you are.